Hello everyone, this is Wandering Tati. Today we are revisiting the logical fallacies, those common errors in reasoning and argumentation that none of us can escape from. They may rely on flawed logic, irrelevant points, or manipulative tactics, making arguments appear convincing even when they lack sound reasoning. Learning about them is important because it helps us critically evaluate our own arguments and avoid being misled by the faulty reasoning of others. By recognizing fallacies, we can foster better decision-making, improve debates, and contribute to more rational and constructive discussions. The first fallacy of the day is post hoc ergo propter hoc. The false cause fallacy occurs when the link between premises and conclusion depends on some imagined causal connection that probably does not exist.
Not a bear in sight. The Bear Patrol must be working like a charm.
That's specious reasoning, Dad.
Thank you, honey.
By your logic, I could claim that this rock keeps tigers away.
Oh, how does it work?
It doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
It's just a stupid rock.
Uh-huh.
But I don't see any tigers around here, do you?
Lisa, I want to buy your rock.
The Latin phrase literally translates to after this, therefore because of this. In simple terms, we assume that because one event followed another, the first one caused the second one. One example may be something along the lines of I wore my lucky socks and we won the game. But we could attribute this to just about anything: the shampoo we used, what we had for breakfast, or the position of the planets. The following graphs are a nice reminder that correlation does not imply causation. Unless you believe that the amount of Nicolas Cage's movies do influence the number of people drowning in swimming pools, that the ice cream sales provoke more shark attacks, or that the consumption of margarine is responsible for divorces in Maine. Let me know in the comments if you can come up with an explanation of how one of those may have caused the other. I accept only wrong answers. Though, of course, causes do precede their effects, this alone does not suffice to prove that there is a causal connection between the two events. We need actual evidence for this.
Our fridge is broken. We have to get a new one. I checked around, and your half is $400. Thanks a lot.
I'm not paying for half of that. I'm only staying here until my apartment gets fixed.
Look, Rich, my parents bought this fridge just after I was born. Okay? Now, I have never had a problem with it. Then you show up and it breaks. What does that tell you?
That refrigerators don't live as long as people?
One example that has had great impact in public health is regarding vaccines and autism. The fear surrounding childhood vaccines, particularly the measles, mumps, and rubella, or MMR vaccine, stems from a 1998 essay by Dr. Andrew Wakefield and colleagues, which claimed a link between the vaccine and autism. Despite the article being retracted for containing dubious and incorrect claims, the damage was already done. Public fear spread rapidly, amplified by celebrities, leading to a decline in vaccination rates and a resurgence of preventable diseases like measles or pertussis. The fear persists partly because autism is often diagnosed around the same time that children get the MMR vaccine, making people think that there might be a causal link. However, repeated studies have found no connection between vaccines and autism. Unfortunately, the drop in vaccination rates endangers not only unvaccinated children, but also individuals who rely on herd immunity due to conditions that prevent them from being vaccinated. Next one is red herring. This fallacy occurs when a person diverts attention from the main issue by introducing an irrelevant topic.
Mayor West, if re-elected, would you increase the frequency of garbage pickup?
Well, citizen, that's an excellent question, and I thank you for it. I think it's great we live in a town where you can ask questions. Because without questions, we just have answers. And an answer without a question is a statement.
Oh, I like him. He looks me in the eye.
I'd like to have a beer with him. I'm voting for him.
A red herring is a distraction device that detracts from the actual issue, allowing one to be sidetracked from what is actually happening and to draw a false conclusion. The fallacy is named after a strong-smelling smoked fish that was historically used to throw off hunting dogs. Apparently, the strong odor of the red herring would distract the dogs, leading them away from their original target. Some examples include things like, why worry about climate change when we have so many homeless people? One person may argue we should reduce plastic waste to save the environment, to which another person responds, but think about how many people would lose jobs if they shut down factories. So how to avoid the fallacy? Actually, the answer is simple. When asked a question, devise a thought-out answer that actually answers the question. Do not try to distract the listener, reader, or interviewer by throwing out information that will lead away from the original topic. Afterwards, we have false analogy. The fallacy occurs when a person compares two things that are not truly comparable in the way they are being argued, leading to a false conclusion. This fallacy arises when the difference between the two things outweighs the similarities, making the comparison invalid. For example, something like, employees are like nails, you have to hit them on the head to make them work, which sounds like something a CEO would say, alright. So how can we spot and avoid these false analogies? Examine the similarities and the differences. Are the things being compared fundamentally the same in the relevant context? You also need to check the purpose. Are the two items or situations being compared for a valid reason, or does the comparison distract from the real issue? And you can also always ask for clarification. If someone uses an analogy, you could ask them to explain why the comparison is appropriate. Now we will see appeal to tradition.
People up and down the street, crushing bruises beneath their feet. Why we do it, who can say? But it's such a festive holiday, so let the stomping fun begin. Bash their wings and skulls right in. It's tradition that makes it okay.
This fallacy consists on arguing that something is correct or better simply because it's been done that way in the past. Something like, we've always done it in this way, so it must be the best way. You know what was tradition at some point? Slavery, gladiator fights, burning women accused of witchcraft. The politician Charles Matthias Jr. said at some point, I cannot help but wonder whether by continuing and expanding the school lunch program, we aren't witnessing, if not encouraging, the slow demise of yet another American tradition, the brown bag. Appeals to tradition are tremendously useful. Politicians seem to have found them particularly useful when manipulating their audiences. And it can be dangerous, as it can prevent us from moving beyond harmful and dangerous beliefs and institutions only because we are used to them. Tradition has nothing to do with morality, and this fallacious reasoning can be used to justify just about anything. As you can see, just because something has always been done, it does not mean it should be done. A clarification here, recognizing the flaws in appealing to tradition isn't saying that traditions are inherently bad or that cultural identity is unimportant. What we are recognizing is that just because something has been done in the past does not justify continuing to do it in the future. Let us remember this once more. Our sentimentality for the past can be and is often used against us. And what's worse, it can be used to justify any kind of inequality, inequity, and oppression. Next we have argumentum ad ignorantiam. Also known as the appeal to ignorance fallacy, it occurs when someone claims that something is true simply because it hasn't been proven to be false. This fallacy relies on a lack of evidence as proof, rather than presenting valid arguments or evidence to support the claim. For example, no one has proven aliens don't exist, so they must be real. You know, the truth is out there. Senator Joe McCarthy once said, I do not have much information on this except the general statement of the agency that there is nothing in the files to disprove his communist connections. So it seems that for McCarthy, someone is a communist based on the lack of evidence that they are not a communist. And since I have no evidence that you guys are not communist, I'm going to assume that you all are. So, you know, like and subscribe if you would like to bring down the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. That was the last fallacy I had for this video. There's plenty more, so I will cover them in another video. Understanding logical fallacies helps us think more critically, communicate more effectively, and avoid being misled by others. The more we recognize these errors in reasoning, the better equipped we are to engage in meaningful and rational discussions. Let me know in the comments, do you have any other examples of those fallacies I mentioned? Did you come across any of them when talking to others? I really hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please remember to like, share and subscribe to support the channel. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Until next time!